Yeah, hello and welcome to another GateToHell quick fix on the road. And this time we simulate a problem with a legendary Marshall JCM 800 model 2203. 100 watts, master volume, legendary amp played by Slayer. Rage Against the Machine, James Brown, whatever, you name them. Probably 50% of the records you own. An 800 model 2203 is one of the amps that is played on the Guitar World there. Anyway, this guy is broken. So in order to get rid of the broken duck, we want to check why it is broken. So first thing is we plug in the speaker cord always, and then we plug in the power cord, and then we turn it on, and the turn on works. The mains go on, and also the standby, we flip the standby, and that works. And then we take a close look at the back of the amp, and what we can see, probably not on the camera, but we can see that the tubes glow up, and then we realize there's nothing coming out, like not a single noise out of the amp. And we ask ourselves, why is that? So the reason for that is that there is two currents running through the tubes. There's one current that is turned on as soon as the mains switch is turned on, and that is the heating for the tube. The heating for the tube just says basically, hey, electricity is running and the tube gets hot. So when you see a tube that has an orange glow, it's on, yes, but it does not mean that the high current is running. We also have here at the back of the Marshall two fuses. The one is the so-called mains fuse, which is here rated at 3.15 amps. And the other one is the so-called HT fuse, which is the 1 amp fuse. So that is a significantly lower thing. So if I now turn off my Marshall and then unplug the mains and unplug the speaker, I can take a look in the fuse, just a flat screwdriver. I take the fuse out, take it, and then I take my meter then it beeps, and then when I put it on the fuse, it doesn't beep. So this fuse is fried. So basically that's the reason why the amp does not work. I put the fuse in here, and as soon as I flip the standby switch, the high current tries to run through the power amp tubes, and then something is wrong with the power amp tubes, and this causes this fuse to break. So I take a new fuse, and now I go to both ends, and this fuse is fine. So I put the fuse back in its holder. It's a little spring on the back, and just simply screw it in. Then put in mains as second. Put the mains on. Put the standby on. I can see here a little bit of glowing. You'll see this later, that the tubes still glow. But what will happen now when I turn it off again and check again the fuse, this fuse is blown again. Even though it is a new fuse that has been tested, this fuse now is not reading, but here it is reading. So this fuse is broken again. So now the question is, why is this happening? Because some of the main power amp tubes, of the 4 power amp tubes, is broken. So I need to open the amplifier, cordless drill, Phillips head. Okay. So now here we look at our amp from the back, and the first check is always a visible check, like is there something seriously wrong, so I can take a look and make sure that the mains is not plugged in because it might be lethal right now. So I look at this and I see here the 4 power amp tubes, I see here the mains transformer and the output transformer, preamp tubes, and then there's the capacitors, there's 6 of them here, and that's all basically I can look at, and I can see also the output selects, blah blah blah, which is not so special right now. Anyway, so what I can look at or check is if the transformers are in a stable position, or if they are moving around. If they are moving, or if they are lacking screws, or screws came loose, or if I see any wire running around here, do not operate the amp. Put it to a qualified tech that has a full-on lab. There's nothing you can do on the road. If you do that on the road, you can kill yourself or someone else, which is very, very dangerous to operate. There's very high current in there, and I strongly recommend not to do anything else then. So, but now if we look at that, here what I can do is I can take off the spring tube containers from the tubes just by pulling them and gently sliding them sideways. Now I have all 4 of them detached. Now I can take the tube, twist it a little and take it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now my 4 tubes are out of the amp. I can look at the spring tube containers, check again if there's loose cores from the output transformer or mains transformers, now that I have a better visibility on the amp. The next thing I do, and this might sound completely weird to you guys, but anyway, what I do is I take a new fuse from my box, measure it. Okay, this guy is working. So then I take my screwdriver and put in the high current fuse. This is the right on this amp. Might be different on older models, so it's a reissue, not a vintage one, but the electrical circuit is the same, more or less. So now it's plugged in. Now the next thing is I always plug in the speaker first, even though I don't have a power tube attached. I still do this, and then I use my power cord and plug it in. Now people might say, why is this guy putting in the power now that he doesn't have any power amp tubes? That's completely retarded. It's actually not, because I can now check if there's something else wrong inside of the amp without risking of damaging a tube if I put in a brand new tube, or risking of damaging anything else. So I just turn on the amp, both power and standby, turn it off again, take out my mains, take out my speaker, take out the fuse that broke the entire time, and check now if this fuse is working or not. Boop. Take the fuse with a meter, and you can see, this fuse is still working. So now I have a proof that most certainly everything inside of the amp, which we cannot see now, is okay. Just one or more of these guys, of the old tubes, is broken. Take the fuse, take it back in. Okay, now that most likely the circuit inside is okay, and that everything else seems to be okay with the amp, what I do now is I retube the amp. So we guys at GateToHell buy our tubes in like egg cartons. The good thing for us is they are all graded or matched in the same way. So I don't have to bias the amp. That is fortunate for us, not so fortunate for any other guys, but as a backline company with a couple of 100 amps, it is the only way for us to do this. So they are all the same, they have all the same grading. Tube Amp Doctor grading 1 is our grading for EL34s. Now we can put them in and they have this little nose here at the bottom. And with this nose, and we have the matching, the counterpart here, and then we put the tube in, and then we put the spring tube container over the tube, and we do this 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 3, 'Whoop. Okay, now we have them put in. It's they all look now have the same position, same alignment here with the silk screen tube amp doctor on. Then I put in the speaker always first, the mains second, and then the next step is to put the power on. And now that I put the power on, I should see the red here at the bottom of the tube as well, so that it indicates that the tube is heating. And now we put in the standby. And now I can hear some crackling already from the pot if I turn it on 11. So now I can hear something. Of course, that's not the perfect method. Now the good thing would be to have a guitar play in or have a sine wave generator. What we have here is a little machine that has a certain output that I can determine here at -40 to -16 dBV. It's an output that is equivalent from a guitar in a Gibson range. And now I plug in the amp or with my noise, and now I can see whether I have treble, mids, bass, presence. The next thing that I can go for is I can set my little machine here on a sine wave, and then I can see that this is a pretty clean sine wave. So I now think that this amp is working, so I can unplug it. Okay, so frequently asked questions are, why do you put in the speaker cords? Always first, because if a tube amp is running without a speaker cord, that's lethal or can be lethal for the tube amp. So that's why I always put in the speaker cord first and take it out last. So I'm always sure that I have a load on the output side. That's number one thing. Next frequently asked question is, how do you determine that it is the power amp section? Well, it is not. I mean, it was just a test run. It was not 100% that it was this. But the high temperature fuse failing, and that's basically the main index for me that it is 1 blown or 2 blown power amp tubes. If the mains fuse is blown, it's some different problem, or it's a problem in the heating. You don't know. And of course, if there's still no output, there might be something else which is inside of the amp. But right now, it's just quick fix on the road. So this fuse goes. With any other amp, it's the same thing. They're all similar. If they have 2 different fuses, if that fuse is gone, not the mains one, but the other one, it's most likely 1 power amp or more power amp tubes that is gone. You might want to change them, and that's it. And then you're good to go. And that's just the quick troubleshooting guide for on the road. So, final words, amp is fixed with replacing 4 power amp tubes with no opening up from the inside or anything that is dangerous. You can do this on the road. Do not open from the inside, and you should be safe. Thanks for watching. Always plug in first. the speaker than the power.